If you were to actually look at buying the Harrier GR.1, you would not seek this aircraft due to the actual airframe or anything about the plane, except the missiles. The missiles it carries stands for Short Range Air-to-Air Missile, or the SRAAM. You get 4 of them. This is a pretty unique missile as it is the lowest BR thrust vectoring missile. It also doesn't feature any sort of fin. It uses legitimately just a thrust vectoring motor, burns for 7 seconds in total, so you can't really hit targets at far ranges, and if an aircraft is running away from you, you're a Harrier. You don't have the engine power to catch up to it. Most aircraft in this BR range that can outrun you will just outrun your missiles and guns. Now, if you can bait them using your thrust vectoring and get them nice and slow, you are going to get pretty much a lot of free kills with the SRAAM. This missile doesn't normally just miss unless it overpulls, which I'll show you what happens here. If you're watching the clip right now, as you can see, I have this F3H nice and slow. This missile should have hit him, but it doesn't. It spins out of control. I'm not sure if it also saw my friendly and went crazy, or if it just was too slow. This next launch is also within my missile parameters, but it does the same exact thing. I'm assuming this is because my Harrier's too slow. The third one actually wants to track and finds the target. Now, that is what I just showed is something that happens with other thrust vectoring missiles like the Mika EM and the R-73. They overpull because they're trying to actually correctly guide to the target. Something like that on the SRAAM doesn't really happen unless you're at slow speeds like I was, using the thrust vectoring to force an overshoot or try to get the guy out in front. Now, another thing that makes this Harrier pretty much, something you would only buy for the SRAAM is your BR placement. You're 9.7, and that's not unusual for Harriers, but you don't have countermeasures. Something like other premium 9.7s like the AV-8S, AV-8A, they have access to AIM-9Gs and countermeasures. The 9G is a comparable missile to the is a not even really comparable missile to the SRAAM, as it's completely different. Obviously, being a sidewinder and having longer range than the SRAAM, and only being able to carry 2 of them. When you actually properly learn how to use the SRAAM, you are looking at one of the best missiles, in my opinion, at lower BRs. And I don't say this because the missile has good range or has good flare resistance. I say this because the missile is, so widely unexpected. If you can get into the closer distance behind your opponent, your missile is going to end up killing them unless they flare it. Or it does, weird spin things. But other than that, you really are an aircraft that just has a weapon system that no one expects to see or expect to have to go up against, and it is very effective when it can be properly utilized. And being able to properly utilize it just takes a lot of practice. I can tell you right away, if you're going to get this aircraft and you're going to play it, you might not get it in the first or second or third game. It might take a while. But once you fully can utilize how to properly use the SRAAM and actually use the Harrier, you'll find that this plane can treat you very well. In terms of actually grinding the UK tech tree, you can also bring bombs and base bomb, which is what I did to grind my UK tech tree. I personally think nowadays with the, things like the MiG-21 Bison, there are better options than the Harrier GR.1. But the Harrier GR.1 was very reliable for me, and I did enjoy it, especially being able to dogfight with it with the thrust vectoring missile. Another thing about the SRAAM, if you actually look at the stat card, is it is only a 20G missile, but, and where you're thinking things like the R-73, I believe, are 30 plus Gs, the SRAAM pulls immediately. The R-73 and Mika EM do not. Another thing that the SRAAM does that the Mika EM and R-73 does not do is it doesn't actually have fins. It is literally just a rod that has a very powerful engine or rocket booster for a few seconds that actually lets it track towards the target. So it's an instantaneous pulling of the missile. I've never had the SRAAM be outpulled. I've had it flared. I've had it outpull itself, which is what I showed you guys earlier, where it starts to spin on its own. That's it. This missile, unless it gets flared or it does dumb things, it should always hit its target, unless it gets outran. And getting the missile, being outrun with the missile happens way more than I like to actually admit. Being actually able to, like I said, find the right time to use this missile is very important. Also, having no flares at 9.7 can be interesting at times to say. You do run into things like the A10 and the A6 and the Frogfist that have all-aspect missiles. And really the biggest thing for me here with the Harrier GR.1 is being able to utilize it properly. Obviously, learning how to use or when to use SRAMs is a big thing for this aircraft. Another big thing is learning how the thrust vectoring works. If you can master thrust vectoring, you're gonna have one of the best dogfighters in the game at the BRs you're at. It just takes practice. And that's really just the big thing for this aircraft. I would never buy the Harrier GR.1 because of the actual plane or the actual flight model. I would buy the aircraft because of the missiles. The SRAM's only found on one other aircraft, I believe, in warthunder. It's the Hunter F6 and the UK Tech Tree. Other than that, this is your most, I think this is the only premium aircraft. Yes, the only other aircraft that carries the SRAM. And so, unless you're wanting to grind the whole British Tech Tree to play the missiles, the Harrier GR.1 might be an okay option for you. Also, keep in mind that this vehicle is a GE vehicle, and it will go on sale 50% off during the GE sales. So picking up this vehicle for, I believe, around 4,500 GE is actually not terrible at all, especially if you have GE saved up from buying other packs. It really can be a fun vehicle. It just has a big learning curve. Anyways, let me know your guys' thoughts down below in the comments. Let me know if you guys think the SRAM is a good air-to-air missile, or you think it's just kind of overrated. Personally, like I said, it's a situational missile that you have to learn how to use properly. Like I said, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Please make sure to hit the like button and subscribe, and join the Discord link down below in the description. I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I hope to see you guys in a later video.